Now I'm going to discuss about the financial performance indicators first, and then we will move on to the non-financial performance indicators later on. So let's talk about the financial performance indicators. Whenever we measure the performance of the organization from the financial perspective, what we generally do is that we have got multiple aspects of measuring the performance. And those multiple aspects usually include the use of different types of ratios. And when we talk about the use of different types of ratios, we usually classify these ratios into different headings. So the first heading in which we classify our ratios are the profitability ratios. Let me explain to you people that what is the different types of profitability ratios. You have got a GP margin. You have got the operating profit margin. You have got the net profit margin. You have got the return on capital employed. Then you have got the return on equity. The earnings per share. Now, what I would want you people to do is that I'm giving you 2-3 minutes, write down the formula of each one of them and see how much you remember. Write down the formula in front of each one of them and see how much you remember. And this is very pleasing to see that you all are contributing. So we have got these formulas for these ratios, which is when we have got the gross profit margin, we say it's simply the GP upon the sales into 100. The operating profit actually means PBIT, the profit before interest and tax. You divide it by sales, you multiply by 100. The net profit margin is your NP upon the sales into 100. The return on capital employed is your PBIT upon the capital employed multiplied by 100. And when we talk about the capital employed could be calculated as the equity plus debt, or you could say total assets minus current liability, or you could say total assets minus the current liability is also going to be considered as your capital employed. Then we have got the return on equity, and the return on equity is profit after tax divided by total equity. Then we have got the earnings per share, which is again the profit after tax, but now divided by the number of shares. The profit after tax, but now it's going to be divided by number of shares. So resultingly, what do we have? These are the different ratios that you can calculate. So let me just see that what are the answers that you have given. GP, operating profit, NP. Okay, for the return on capital employed, well, basically, Coach Zanai, what you have done is you have probably mentioned the formula for return on assets, because when you divide it by total assets, it's a return on assets. It's not a return on capital employed then. So these are the different formula that we use for the different types of profitability ratios. There could be other profitability ratios also, but we have not considered them right now. I repeat, there could be the other profitability ratios also, but we have not considered them right now because there are a few things which we haven't studied up till now. So once I teach them at a later part, then I'm going to be focusing upon them. Okay, so good enough. So what have we got? We've got the profitability as one of the ratios. Now, let's move a bit forward, and the second thing is the liquidity ratios. What do you mean by liquidity? The liquidity actually means your ability to pay off debts. Liquidity means your ability to pay off debts as they become due. Your liquidity is the ability to pay off the debts as they become due. So as soon as your debts become due, if you are able to pay them, that means you have got a good liquidity as an entity. That means you've got a good liquidity as an entity. Now, so I said that liquidity is the ability to pay off the debts as they become due. What are the different liquidity ratios? So the different liquidity ratios are your current ratio. There is another one which is called the quick ratio. And I mean, like, these are the major two ratios that we use with respect to the liquidity. Now, I'm again giving you 2-3 minutes. Try to attempt the answer to these questions. Yeah, try to write down the answer to these two questions, these two ratios. Okay, so we have got the answers to it. And what have we got? So we know this thing that the current ratio is your current assets upon the current liabilities. And the quick ratio is your current assets less the inventory divided by the current liabilities. The current assets less the inventory is also termed as quick assets. I repeat, the current assets less the inventory is also termed as the quick assets. Now, so what we have done is we have now discussed that what exactly is the current ratio and what is the quick ratio. So this current ratio and the quick ratio actually tells you about the liquidity position of an entity. What does it tell you? It tells you about the liquidity position of the entity. Now let's move a bit forward. Let's discuss further. If I move a bit forward and if I discuss further, so I'm going to tell you that basically there is a third category of ratio, and that is called the efficiency ratio. There is a third category of ratio, and that is termed as efficiency ratio. When we talk about the concept of this efficiency ratio, the efficiency ratios, they tell you how well an entity utilizes its resources. How well an entity utilizes its resources, that's what the efficiency ratio tells you. I repeat, when we talk about the efficiency ratio tells you that how well an entity utilizes its resources. Now, for us to be able to calculate the efficiency ratios, you need to understand that there are different types of efficiency ratio, which I'm just going to mention over here. One of them is called receivable collection period. The other one of them is called, I would say, receivable turnover. Receivable turnover ratio. The third one of them is called the inventory holding period. The fourth one of them is called inventory turnover. The fifth one of them is called payable payment period. The sixth one of them is called payable turnover. Then what do you have? You have got the working capital cycle. You've got working capital cycle. I'm going to zoom out this window so that you could see all of the ratios which I've mentioned. I am going to zoom out this window so that you could see all of the ratios that I've mentioned and you can write down the answer to them. Now you've got 5 minutes, complete this efficiency ratios. You've got 5 minutes, complete them. It's good to see the response, but let me just see. Okay, receivable turnover is receivable upon sales. Receivable ratio is this receivable upon revenue. Collection period, payable ratio. Okay, payable turnover. Okay, now you see a lot of you people have got the turnover ratio to be incorrect. Let me actually go through it. So a few of you have got it right also, but a few of you have actually got it incorrect, have mixed up the turnover and the collection period together. So when we talk about the receivable collection period, we say that it's actually the trade receivable divided by credit sales. And you multiply it by 365. So this is what you get. You get this a period. What do you get? You get a period. But when we talk about the receivable turnover is actually like this. It says that sales upon receivable. So it's actually in terms of number of times. And you could say that it's calculated in an opposite manner as compared to the collection period. Then you've got the inventory holding period, which is like inventory divided by COGS into 365. You've got the inventory turnover, which is COGS divided by inventory. Again, it's going to be in terms of times. Then you've got the payable payment period, which is payable divided by cost of goods sold. And if the credit purchases are available, you divide it by credit purchases. You multiply it by 365. The payable turnover is like this. The payable turnover is going to be COGS divided by payable. And lastly, when you've got the working capital cycle, the working capital cycle is established like this. The working capital cycle, what does it actually tell you? The working capital cycle tells you that the number of days. What does it tell you? It tells you the number of days required to recover. What does it tell you? It says number of days which are required to recover $1 investment in working capital. So the number of days that are required to recover $1 investment in working capital is going to be considered as your working capital cycle. So I repeat, number of days which are required to recover a $1 investment in your working capital is going to be termed as working capital cycle. And how do we establish the working capital cycle? We establish the working capital cycle like this. We say inventory days plus receivable days less payable days. So this is how we do it. We say that it's actually inventory days, receivable days, and then the payable days that actually gives you the working capital cycle. What does it give you? It gives you the working capital cycle. Now, let's move a bit forward and let's talk about the gearing ratios. So when we talk about the gearing actually tells you the risk that is being faced by the entity. So when we talk about the gearing ratios, there could be two types of gearing. One of them is called financial gearing and the other one of them is termed as operational gearing. Let me repeat, one of them is termed as financial gearing and the other one of them is termed as operational gearing. What exactly do you mean by the financial and the operational gearing? So one of them is basically a ratio called debt to equity. The second one of them is the ratio which is termed as capital gearing. The third one of them is termed as the interest cover. And the fourth one of them is actually termed as what? I'm writing down operational gearing over here. I'm writing down operational gearing over here. And what I would want you people to do is that let's just try to fill out the formulas for these. Let's just try to fill out the formulas for these, which is the debt to equity ratio, the capital gearing, the interest cover, and the operational gearing. Are you people done with it? I don't get to see responses from you people in this. Why is it so? I'm not getting to see the response from you people. Okay, now let's just see this thing. Basically what happens is when we talk about the concept of these different types of ratios, you've got the debt to equity ratio, which is simply debt divided by equity, which is simply your debt divided by equity. Now, what else is there? The next thing is the capital gearing. The capital gearing is simply debt, the buy-in, debt plus equity. The capital gearing is debt upon debt plus equity. I repeat, what is capital gearing? Capital gearing is debt upon debt plus equity. Now what next is there? The next thing is you've got the interest cover. The formula for the interest cover is PBIT upon the interest expense. The formula for interest cover is PBIT upon the interest. PBIT upon the interest expense. And then what happens is when we talk about the operational gearing, the operational gearing actually gives you the business risk. The operational gearing gives you the business risk. How do we actually explain, how do we actually establish this specific operational gearing? So there are multiple formulas to it. There are multiple formulas to it. And what are those multiple formula that we use in order to calculate it? It's actually one of the formula that we use is contribution divided by PBIT. The contribution divided by PBIT, it also is one of the formula that we use in order to establish the operational gearing. In order to establish the operational gearing. A lot of people, what they do is that they calculate the operational gearing as a fixed cost divided by variable cost also. And a lot of people, what they do is that they calculate the operational gearing as fixed cost divided by fixed cost plus variable cost. So what could actually happen is there could be multiple formula that could be used in order to establish the operational gearing. I repeat, there could be multiple formula that could be used to establish the operational gearing. Yes, Perry, the interest expense and the interest charge are the same thing. So what happens is this is how you could calculate the different ratios in order to establish the gearing of a business. So if I have to establish the gearing of a business, so the financial gearing and the operational gearing, these are the two things that we establish. What is it? It's the financial gearing or the operational gearing that we establish. Are you people okay with it now? Yeah, are you people okay with it now? Okay, good enough. So now we have got the final head, which is basically uh, which is actually going to be now the investor ratios. Well, there is at times an overlap between uh, the investor ratios and the profitability ratios, but I'm going to talk about them. First of all is basically share price growth, dividend cover. The another ratio is called dividend yield. Then you've got total shareholder return. There are many other ratios also, but we're not going to be considering them right now. So can you just write down the formula for them? Okay, now let's just go through it. uh, Now let's just see. First of all, it's actually like this: share price growth. So how do you get the share price growth? It's actually the closing value less opening value divided by opening value multiplied by 100. So it's actually closing value less the opening value divided by opening value into 100. That's what the share price growth is. How do we calculate the dividend cover? The dividend cover is just like an interest cover, but it's here established like this: PAT divided by dividend. It's PAT divided by dividend. How do we establish the dividend yields? So when we establish the dividend yield, it's actually like this: dividend upon share price, dividend upon share price, dividend upon share price into 100, dividend upon share price into 100. And lastly, when we talk about the total shareholder return, the total shareholder return is actually your dividend plus closing share value less opening value divided by opening value of the share multiplied by 100, divided by opening value of the share multiplied by 100. This is what we have got. What? The share price. This is the total shareholder return. That is how much as a shareholder you earned in the form of dividend and in the form of capital gain. How much do you earn in the form of dividend and in the form of capital gain as on your opening investment? Well, the total shareholder return formula, Sajid, let me explain to you that what does the total shareholder return actually means. Let me demonstrate to you through an example. Basically, it's like this. For example, the opening share price was, let's say, $10. The closing share price is, let's say, $12. The opening share price is $10. The closing share price is actually $2. Now what actually happens is, if you've got an opening share price of 10, you've got a closing share price of 12, and assume that there is actually a dividend which is of, let's say, $1 that has been paid. So resultingly, think from the perspective of the shareholder that how much has he earned? He has earned $2 in the form of capital gain. He has got $1 in the form of the dividends, and there is going to be this $10. So resultingly, it's going to be 30%, which is the total shareholder return. Resultingly, it's actually going to be 30%, which is the total shareholders return. Okay, I hope you understand it now. Okay, good enough. Now, so this is what we have done. We have actually gone through that how exactly do you establish the financial ratios. So it's actually the different types of ratios that we have gone through, and it's a quick revision of the different ratios that you have already studied at the financial management. So it's just that we have we have had a quick review of them. So if you have to measure the performance of the organization, one of the methods of doing it is the financial performance indicators.